Hello everyone, welcome to another Coding and Philosophy podcast where we're all sitting Asian style to honor 3. Yes.
Just sitting on the floor.
Yep, we're just sitting Asian style. Is this how people sit usually in Vietnam?
When we have a family, big family meal together and we don't want to use a table, we don't have a big enough table, we end up putting all the food on the floor and we surround ourselves in circles.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We have chair and proper desk during a contemporary modern family household.
I see. But yeah, 3 arrived, but before 3 arrived, me and Andrew, and Jenny, we've been talking about a book which I got my hands on. So, a little story. I met someone and they asked me about, hey, have you ever read a book? I said, this specific book. I said, no, I haven't. I said, okay, good, because if you have, that would have been an immediate red flag. Oof. And you know what I did after I heard that?
You read the book.
Yeah, exactly. I had to get my hands on that book. And yeah, I got it. I just got it from the library. I've been reading it. And I was telling Andrew, it's like, once I laid my hands upon it, it's like I got myself a necronomicon or some.
You felt dark energy flowing from the book.
Exactly,
Yeah.
dark energy. So that's what I've been reading, and I make notes about all the stuff I've been reading, and so the book is really about. It's called The 48 Laws of Power.
Let's break it down then.
Yeah, and it's really about what does power consist of. That's what the book is trying to explore, and it has maybe I went in reading the book with a preconceived notion because that there's something nefarious there, but really if you read between the lines, or if you just read it with some thought, you realize that it's book written in a way that it's trying to understand power, explain what power actually is. And it's, of course, psychopaths and Machiavellian types and these types of people who are attracted to power and claiming it, they can use it as a way to enhance their manipulative tactics, right, to gaining more power. But so
Interesting.
yeah, so it's really have you heard of Machiavelli?
No, I haven't.
No. Well, Andrew, maybe you can explain a bit of
Yeah, sure. I can explain a little bit about Niccolo Machiavelli. So Machiavelli was an Italian writer and an advisor to several princes back in the, I think it was the Middle Ages, when Italy had a whole bunch of tiny little states. Like Venice had a separate state from Sicily, and everyone had their own tiny little city-states. Machiavelli was actually locked up in prison for a while, and he ended up writing a book while he was in prison called The Prince. And The Prince is considered one of the founding books of the Western canon today because it gives princes advice, such as if you have to choose between being feared or being loved, you should pick being feared over being loved. Ideally, you're both, but you should choose that one. And Robert Greene is very similar in that style.
Yeah, so it's really a book about, we have to accept that there are Machiavellian types, like psychopaths among us. And there are people who want power and will do anything and everything to get it. And, how do you deal with those? Well, you have to understand how they behave and what their motivation is. And this book really helps you understand, it gives a pretty good mind or insight into how someone who really wants to be in control, wants to be in power, not even wants, but needs it. How do they think and why they behave in the way they behave. And also strategies, how you should behave. One of them is that, the book consists of rules, and one of the rules is called make yourself, I don't remember, but basically about being kind of the center of attention in all situations. Which
Make
is
yourself indispensable or something like that.
it wasn't that, it was something else. But basically,
Are you the person now who needs the power, or are you the person now who needs to deal in the situation when there are other people who needs the power?
so yeah, I need to deal with the situation where, let's say there is a room and there's a person who needs to be the center of attention. I'm sure we've all been in that situation. And your kind of initial reaction is just to go, oh, like, just tell to that person that you understand what they are trying to do, basically. That you understand what they're trying to basically use manipulative tactics. But that's the wrong way to play it, because what you should be doing is you should kind of pretend to be at awe of this person so that they will feel comfortable, and then they will reveal whatever plan they have in store for you. They will reveal it because they believe that, okay, now this person is under my thumb. And so basically the advice from the book is that if you meet one of these psychopaths, you should play naive and make the person believe that you know, even though you're 2 steps ahead, you want them to believe that they have the power. Because once the people believe that they have the power, they will become careless. So, and if the exact opposite happens, if you show to them that, oh, hey, I know what you're doing, they become wary and they will not reveal their plans. They become defensive, which makes it harder for you to know, or you to figure out what is it that they want from you.
Sounds like a good strategy to deal with fraud or anti-fraud. I've seen at least YouTubers who deal with fraud by just playing along to see what happens. Please continue.
Yeah, so that was one of the rules, is to kind of make yourself stand out whenever possible.
That doesn't seem like to be the rule that you just described. The rule you just described is to play along. It doesn't mean that you should stand out.
I think you mix 2 rules there, although they do dovetail quite nicely together. But
yeah, but anyways, one of the other rules is never outshine the master. And it has a good story about a person who there was a king, and then the king's minister, the minister of money, and the minister of money wanted to kind of appease to the king, wanted to kind of get into good graces with this king. So they threw this lavish party. This kind of all the royalty came and flocked into this party. And the minister was thinking, like, okay, this is really good. Like, everyone's having a good time, everyone's enjoying, everyone's talking about the party, and I'm doing this for the king's honor. This is great. But then, about a couple of weeks later, the king executed, or had the minister executed, because the king was in actuality really insecure, and he could never have someone outshine them. You know, so the advice that the book offers is that you should never try to, if someone is higher than you in their status, like totem pole, you should never try to kind of outshine them forcibly. If you...
Forcibly?
Yeah. Or...
Well, can we root back to the example and think about the fact that the minister is coming from a good motive, that he wants to uphold the image of the king. So he has good motivation, that he didn't realize that that action actually had made his master, which was the king, to be inferior. So the question is, how do you act? How do you realize that, and how do you act?
Well, I suppose that the message that Robert Greene is putting with that lesson is that if the guy had thrown parties that were pretty good, but maybe a little like missing the mark, like not the best party you've ever been to, but like an enjoyable affair, then I don't think the king would have had any problem at all. That's kind of the vibe that I got when I read that story, and it's been a long time since I read that one. But I think Robert Greene is really trying to emphasize with that one that you can outshine someone if you're really good at something, like just by accidents. You got to be careful about that, you know.
Yeah. And
And how do you act then? How do you act? Do you just try to be conscious all the time, that dampen yourself down?
well, the strategies which Robert Greene from the book recommends is to you have two choices. One is to kind of not associate with this, because there are some, you might just naturally in your natural kind of aura outshine a person, and if that happens, you don't want to, and it causes instills jealousy, then there is no cure for that. You need to just stop associating with this person.
Yep, it happens.
Yeah. So that's the one strategy, and the other one is to kind of be aware of how other people perceive you, and then how kind of so if you're in that minister's position, you should play it in the most advantageous, way, and your most advantageous play isn't to outshine the king and to throw a party that is better than your best move is to kind of dial back and maybe host a party that is, or when people kind of say that, this party is so great, well, you can respond, my party is okay, but the king, man, his parties,
that's the real move right there.
Yeah, the king has like massive parties, and like you kind of that's really the move. I'm thinking about.
My parties are, they're okay, but you should see this guy. He's an animal.
I see. Yeah. A little bit of maneuver.
Just a little, yeah. Give yourself a little room at the top, even though if you could go all the way, right? Right. And then just leave it in reserve, I suppose.
Yeah. Another thing that pops into my mind about the book, or it said about enemies, is that the best ally, or let's say you are a general of war, you don't want to have your best friend to be like second in command, because friendship has the tendency to kind of cloud your judgment. And the same thing happens with love, is that those, friendship, love, they cloud your judgment on another person. You don't believe that this other person could betray you or to kind of plot against you. So the best thing to do is actually hire or to employ your former enemies, because they will once they have been bested by you, they will kind of, and you offer them a position, they will work extra hard. They will move mountains to try to impress you and try to kind of
conquer you back,
overthrow
you in the background.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, ideally, they don't stay as enemies, I think. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want them to stay as enemies, but you want to kind of indoctrinate them into your army.
That's the right word, I suppose.
Yeah.
How do you tell for sure that they are converted? How do you tell for sure that they are
That's
actually
$1 million question, isn't it?
Because people have motive.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll reverse that question. How do you know that your friend is not plotting against you?
Exactly. That's
Well,
a good assumption. That is a good assumption. That your friend is not in your best interest.
But I do have one example of a quite recent spy escapade that was revealed to me.
Okay.
And I think it sheds a little bit of light on how you make sure that the spy doesn't stay as an enemy, like in secret.
I love how you lowered your voice. You got really like low and okay for this story.
Well,
go ahead.
It turns out that a couple of months ago, I read a news article about the Chinese double agents that have been employed by the United States. These are to say, China sends spies to the United States, which is not terribly surprising. Frequently, these spies are educated people, like they take on jobs as, say, an assistant professor at a college, and then they silently funnel trade secrets back to China You know, it's more boring than like, you know, the James Bond style stuff. But, you know, they make a pretty good clip of money doing it. But I believe that I saw that when the United States catches on to this happening, they will often try to convert them, into double agents, right? So spies
Smart move by the US.
for the US to China.
By offering a bigger box.
Yes. And the big bucks they offer tends to be full ride scholarships to top American universities. Which makes a lot of sense because most of the top universities are in the United States right now. And China would have to pay, or Chinese nationals would have to pay the entire full cost of such an education, even if their kids were to somehow get into that place. And there's already systematic, you know, discrimination against East Asian people in universities like that, right? There was a recent article, I don't know if you saw, about a guy who got a near perfect score on his college exams and he got denied from those places. And so I think to myself, that's the exact kind of thing, if I'm being entirely honest, that it kind of work on me. It's like, well, you know, you can promise me all the money in the world not to sell out my country, and I'm not going to flinch, but as soon as it gets to the prosperity of my kids, man, suddenly that's an ethical quandary, right? Like, oh man.
So you would be it would be.
Well, I'm saying every man has his price, right?
Yeah. Or I wouldn't even put it that way. It's just we are like, there's only so much you do for your country at the end of the day. As a, I don't know. It is a fascinating thought experiment. Yeah. But to employ your former enemies, that's the
goal right there.
That's
if you can pull
tactic.
it off.
The manifestation of that in the tech world is that the recruitment of the former successful penetrators into their IT system.
Right. Yeah.
All of the big companies try to hire all of those hackers and penetrators that successfully hack into their system.
I knew more than one person in college who got into like, you know, FANG or FANG equivalent companies just because they did really good on those capture the flags in college. And people were like, oh, if we don't hire this person, they're going to do more damage than anyone we know.
Yes, hence they try to contain that person by offering their actual big buck so that they put down their white hat.
You know, maybe there's a little bit of corporate espionage going on too, you know? You got a lot of good hackers at Google. You know, Google's got some competitors starting with M or A. Maybe
an M, another M.
Yeah.
And E and MI.
But thinking about these, let's say, Machiavellian types or psychopaths, that's really like they usually are in a position of power, right? And since that's the people you should also consider hiring, even though they are kind of plotting to see your downfall so that they can topple you, but if you know what they want, like this book really helps me, like helps you delve into their mind, and if you know what they want, then you can play them. While they think you're being played by them, you're actually playing them, and you're making them work for you. So
it's kind of like Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? He's predictably crazy.
Predictably crazy.
Yeah.
You cannot employ Jack Sparrow.
No, I've never. But like, if you could.
But it's like, well, Jack Sparrow, it's an archetype, and the similar archetype I can see is Joker. You cannot employ those two people.
That is true. The only thing you know about the Joker is if he's around, chaos is going to ensue.
And he's the Machiavellian.
and
if I understand both the terms right.
I think he's beyond Machiavellian, but he's good at it. So he's like Machiavelli plus. He's like the final boss of Machiavellianism.
He's to the extreme.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, if you come across like a middle strata in competence of that trait, then perhaps you can use your tactic and try to manipulate him back.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sound to me like a Machiavellian at all, because those, by definition, are smart.
Yeah.
Are smart. So they will know, well, by definition, I think they will know that being a manipulator, they know when they are manipulated, and they know how to bail out and change the game.
Yeah, but they
except for the dominance.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Which is not considered a Machiavellian at all.
You can
Do not deserve the label.
Yeah.
You just have to be smarter than they are, basically.
By being them themselves. Being them yourself.
Yeah. And you talked about being unpredictable. It's actually one of the rules in the book is being unpredictable with your actions. So that because if you're Jack Sparrow, the other people, the opponents, can never know what you're gonna do. And how can you plan for someone who you never know what they're gonna do?
You can become Batman.
Yeah.
To prepare for everything.
Yeah. And
you just drive someone nuts by like turning them into Batman if you're so unpredictable too.
Yeah.
This book definitely is a red flag book, I think. I heard someone describe it a long time ago as the male manipulator energy book.
I think a male
manipulator energy. And that's maybe overstating it, but it's not completely wrong.
To a certain extent, I have found that the information you share is valid. So it is valid that there exists a manipulator in this world, and given that, it at least gives you some information on how to deal with them. Right? So,
like defense against the dark arts style.
Yeah.
You got to learn the dark arts to defend yourself against it.
And maybe sidetrack a little bit. Can you expand more on the opinion that this book seems to be a red flag?
Because the rules in the book are basically, if you take them at face value, if you read the book with face value, it's just it describes a psychopath.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you have a person who just follows these rules,
you have the recipe for a psychopath.
Exactly. So basically, try to always be the center of attention as like a rule. And what were the other rules?
Pardon me. Be the center of the room. Is that a recipe to become a psychopath?
Well, it's a recipe to become a narcissist, and psychopathy and narcissism are usually pretty close to each other.
Yeah, I think you confused me in the beginning because I was posing a question that who is the you person now in here? Is it the psychopath or is it the person who have to deal with the situation where there is a psychopath in the room?
Well, I think with us, we're the people who have to deal with the psychopath in the room.
But the you in your sentence seems to me it refers to the psychopath. But the psychopath wants to be the attention of the room, right?
Well, it can be read like the dark arts, the book. You can read a bad wizard can read it or study them to gain more power in the dark arts, or a good wizard can read or study the dark arts to learn how to defend themselves more.
Yeah.
So it's a book for both if you want to boil it down.
No.
But at the same time though, you could use that argument a lot. Like you could, for example, say like, "Oh, I need to try heroin so that I know how to defend myself against heroin
and that
in
doesn't
the future."
work that
and
way.
It's like, well, that's not going to work.
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
So it's like a balancing act, I guess.
Yeah, well, it depends on the tool. It depends on the thing, I would say. But I truly believe the only way to defend on, I think narcissist is the proper term. Narcissists, psychopaths, and I don't know what the third is.
Narcissists, psychopaths.
Something.
What completes this trifecta?
It's fine. It doesn't matter. But like it just makes sense the way if you know how they think, if you know what drives them, and the 48 laws of power, it really describes what power is. Because when we talk about power, he's powerful, we never dealt what does that actually mean in practice.
Well, it's implicit, but I see.
Yeah,
never make it explicit, and this book try to make it explicit.
Exactly. And once you understand what power consists of, you start noticing when people are striving to have power, and usually like in social situations, for example, and usually the people who strive for power the most in social situations, or not usually, but like they have some narcissistic qualities, unless they actually have, I would say, a noble reason for trying to attain that power. Like if they're just seeking power for the sake of having power, it's not a noble goal. But if they're seeking power to actually inflict change or to make the world, like to create something in this world.
It sounds like some prince. Sounds like the actual motive of some prince in the medieval times or royal times. Yeah.
You can see that Yuha and I occasionally butt heads because I just hear all this and I'm like, yeah, that's true. I still want power though. So
More power to you.
yeah.
But it's what you do with that power.
Not just get more power.
Oh.
There is no other thing for it. It's just fun.
Then it's the same. I can see the point because what's the point of being better at programming so that you can program more?
Well,
Yeah,
the
pretty
term
much.
competence comes in.
Yeah.
So you want to strive for competence, being the most competent person. And if that grants you power, then that's great. But or like it doesn't really. If that grants you power, okay, cool, good, nice.
Yeah.
But that it shouldn't be your. You should strive for competence instead of power, I would say.
A question though.
Yeah.
What if I want to be competent at building power?
Well, then you read this. Then you read this book,
Never.
and you will become competent at gaining and attaining power.
Yeah.
So you're still building your competence. Yeah. You're
At building power.
yeah.
So
Makes sense.
Or like the knowledge, the competence just grants you power. That's the way. It
and the
just
power
happens.
grants you further competence, right? Because you've gotten
A feedback.
you have a feedback loop, right? You wanted to become competent at getting more power, and then you got more power, and then you can look at your techniques and say, okay, sweet, that works.
Yeah.
Let me do even more of that. And then you become more competent at getting power.
Is the ability to land a job in the tech world also considered a power or a powerful situation to be in?
I think it would be.
You're talking about the interview process itself.
The entirety of the process,
Well,
End to end, you mean?
end to end. So from finding it, interview, tech interview, if there's any, becoming charming, become social engineering, to
Yeah.
get you the job.
I mean, definitely, if you read this book, you will become really good at those interviews, or like it will increase your ability to be.
You just need to bring this book to the interview, and
Yeah.
when they ask you a question, you open it up and you say, hold on, I need to consult the guide. All right, Law 27. All right, my answer is...
Yeah. But I would say
By the definition of narcissistic is that they don't necessarily play by the book
Narcissism is someone who's very obsessed with
with themselves.
that causes a person to do is to strive for power, and this book explains how one does strive for power.
And what if a narcissist's craving for power actually keep the hand on this book? Do they say, this is the book for me and I will use this rule for my dark art?
Well, how do you defeat a bad guy with a gun?
You have to use the gun.
Shoot him?
You have a good guy with a gun. So, yeah, that's it. You need to have a person who has read this book and has learned the tricks.
You know, incidentally, Robert Greene, after he wrote this book, wrote another book with the rapper 50 Cent called The 50th Law.
I see.
And so I imagine if you read that book, you're now one step ahead of the guy who only read the first 48 laws.
The 50th law.
There's no 49th law. I don't know what happened to that one. But the 50th law has a whole extra book, apparently.
Yeah, but I think that's a book for some other episode. And time to close out this one. It was a pleasure, gentlemen.
It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and keep on reading books. Keep on reading about power, understanding power.
And keep on acquiring power. Don't listen to Yuho. It's worth it.
Well, we'll see. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.